Hi everyone, good afternoon and welcome to the Canadian University Dubai studio. My name is Julie Beaton. I am a Canadian lawyer and I am also an assistant professor here at the university. So today we are here to talk about some very exciting news for the university. We are starting a Bachelor of Psychology program and we have two very fantastic and amazing guests with us today to help us introduce the program. So first of all, we have Dr. Safan Kabin, who is the head of the program, and we also have Dr. Sultana Suleiman, who is a clinical psychologist here in the UAE. So welcome you both to the program.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you. So to get started, I just wanted to get a little bit of a general background on your background in psychology, maybe where you grew up and how you got interested in psychology.
Please. Okay, so hello, thank you. I'm Dr. Stéphane Caben. I have a long history in psychology. I did my undergrad in France, Paris 5, La Sorbonne, and then I did my master's degree and PhD in Canada, Quebec City, in clinical psychology and neuropsychology, and then I spent time in Pennsylvania for my postdoctorate, worked there for a few years. And then I got into the position of professor again in France, spent a few years in the US, in Canada. I love psychology for many, many reasons. I tease my friends in engineering by saying I started in chemical engineering, and after 1 year I left for electronic engineering, and after that I left for psychology and I spent 12 years in psychology, and if I had to do it again, I'll do it again.
Excellent. What about you, Doctor?
I mean, my history with the psychology also is long. But I started within the age of 14 when I was in the school, and I had as a teenager, some problems in the school, and I didn't know how to handle it. So one of the teachers told me, "Why you don't go to the psychologist we have in the school?" So I went there, and actually I didn't find any support from them. On the opposite, they made me feel more bad. So I decided to read because I love reading so much. So I went to the library next to my home and I found a book about psychology in our daily life. So I started reading that book and I found there is a lot of answering for my questions, for my thoughts, what I was suffering of. So then I went through it and I decided to, okay, this is my field. Actually, I wanted to study medicine and be a doctor in medicine. But then I changed my direction in the life totally to psychology, and started by getting my Bachelor of Psychology in the University of Emirates, Al Ain, and then I did my master degree in Ain Shams University in Cairo, and then I went to London to King's College Institute of Psychiatry. I got my PhD there by 1999 and returned back to Dubai and started my career in this field, which I found that it's really interesting. It's not letting you be only understanding yourself or understanding the people around you. It turns you to a human, actually turn you to a human.
Wow. So what was your favorite thing about studying psychology? What was it that once you started the program, what did you love the most about it?
When I started psychology, I found that it's not only the theories you study or read or some instructions which you get to do this and that with your clients. No, it means you have to study your client. You have to study the human in front of you. And to study that human, you means to have to study everything around that. So to be a psychologist, it means you have to be like an encyclopedia. You read a lot about everything, because when you meet a person who comes to you and asking you for some help, maybe he has a background in economy, in science, in religion, in history, you don't know, but you should know something about what he's knowing. So that means you should be a good reader, a good observer, a good involver with everybody as well.
Yeah. Wow. And what about you, Doctor? What did you enjoy about it?
I was going to continue what Dr. Sultana was saying. I tell my students that behavior is everywhere. Psychology is the science of behavior, the mind and behavior. But behavior is everywhere. Whatever we talk about, computers, law, accounting, finance, cars, planes, it's humans that are around and doing those things. So every time I tease my students by saying, every time there's a technology or technical problem, it's not the computer, it's not the car, it's not the plane, it is the people that made those things that might not have thought about something, might have made mistakes, errors, and so on. So absolutely, psychology is exciting. I've done so many different things in my life. I've been a head of a chamber of commerce, never studied in business. But what I learned in behavior and research helped me manage that chamber, and I think I did a good job. I've been a professor in business for years, been a professor in psychology, I did research in physiology, my postdoc was in artificial intelligence, and always it was about psychology, about behavior. So again, it's a field that's so vast that when you start it, the problem becomes to choose, right? A specialty, what you want to work on. And then it opens you to other fields. Some psychologists with a bachelor degree go to law school to become lawyers, to med school to become physicians, and so on and so forth. So again, if I had to do it, I would do it again. It's truly an exciting discipline.
And so, okay, so maybe starting from ground zero for people that might be watching, what is psychology? How would you describe it?
Go ahead, please.
Yeah,
Yeah, oh my God. Who wants to take that one?
I started it a little bit, but go ahead. It's,
psychology, I think that, you know, if you go to the terminology itself, they say the studying of the human, okay, human behavior. But I think it's more deeper than this. With my experience in life, it's to be a human. Psychology means to be a human. You know, when you are a human, you can understand a human like you. That's for me is psychology.
Interesting.
I'll add to that again, what is a PhD? A PhD is a philosophy doctor. It's a doctorate in philosophy. That could be in chemistry, in engineering, and so on. All sciences originate from philosophy, right? Psychology is the last one that's split from philosophy by saying, well, what philosophers are doing is great, but we want to be a science. We want to find ways to study human behavior, the human mind, and so on and so forth. And if you look at the history of psychology, how it started, everybody think about Freud and psychoanalysis, when it truly started with the psychophysicist, Weber and all that, studying sensations. And so it became science very early, and it built on that by becoming really a science. Psychology today, nobody would be able to stand and tell you that it's not a science. Actually, a lot of other sciences come in psychology to get models and methods from us. So this is what's exciting in the field of psychology.
So what are the biggest challenges for psychologists?
It's variance. Human behavior is so different. You take 10 humans, you have 10 different things to study. It's not like physics and so on, even if physics today with the infinitely small are starting to have the same problems. The challenge is to find ways to study human or animal behavior, by the way, right? To study behavior in a scientific way, to be able to communicate when you want to help a patient. You want to help a patient based on evidence, on things that you believe or that you know that work better than others. And only research can do that. So these are the challenges. And psychology is young as a science, 150 years truly, right? And it's evolving all the time, right? So these are the challenges. And research in psychology is very heavy. Actually, I think psychology is the science that publishes the most per year in terms of publications. Guess what? Psychology is the only science where psychologists need a PhD. The only discipline that requires a PhD from its members, right? So research is going to be the big challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can add to that to be a psychologist, I mean, you cannot be just directly a therapist or a psychologist just to get a bachelor. You need to continue to be in this field for a long time, to be matured enough to deal with the human. Because I remember when I got my bachelor and I started working in Rashid Hospital in psychiatric department as a trainee psychologist. I was there, and some couples, they come and when they ask me, I was just 20, 21 years old at that time. They don't look to me at this kid, how she can teach us and she can treat us. They don't look to you as a mature person to get information from you. Psychology, to be a psychologist means to be a wise person. And to be a wise person means you need a lot of experiences. Without that experience, you cannot. That is one of the most challenges voices. You spoke about the psychology, and I speak about the psychologist. You know, to be a proper psychologist, you need a lot of experience in life. So
do you feel that you have got better at it over the years then?
Oh yes. Yeah. I mean, if I look to my files from first when I started to now, I laugh at myself as what I was doing. So it's just very primitive, simple, but by the time you will learn a lot. It adds you.
Yeah.
And that's true for almost every clinical discipline. But psychology it's even more important for psychology. It's about behavior. You know, a lot of people are afraid about behavior. In business, we've been in business for years.
Yeah.
Actually, and with all due respect to my friends in finance and accounting and so on, they are looking to those strange people interested by behavior because it's not as clear and so on. So those you find in HR, organizational behavior, and so on and so forth. And as you said, yeah, experience counts a lot.
Yeah.
And ethics, the ability
yes.
to make sure that you're not going to be using, right, your patient just for the money part. That you truly want to help. Yes, you want to be paid like everybody else, but that you truly believe that you can help and that you truly want to help and do your best to help your patients.
Yeah. So do you use psychology then in your everyday life?
Oh yes.
Yes.
For me, yes. I'm beside being a psychologist, I am a board member for Emirati Businesswomen Council, and I'm a businesswoman as well. And also, I'm an artist. I use it. I study now. I'm a student again in the art school in Austria, and I use all of this in my work. In my studying, I use it with the members of the board in the Emirati Businesswomen Council and with the other members as well. It's not. You cannot be separate from it because it's in your. You are breathing it in your daily. Yeah.
Interesting. You found the same thing?
Well, I use it as a professor
Yeah.
with my
Yes,
students,
okay.
not to help my students for mental. No, not at all. But to kind of help them, for example, for career. To have them choose, to make
Understand
choices, career choices, to get them to understand the importance of being a student and the privilege to be a student, right? I use anything I can in terms of behavior to teach them. For example, when they arrive late, instead of being upset, I'll talk with them about the importance of time, being on time, and the reasons of why, and so on and so on, and they end up understanding what I'm trying to tell them. And it works, I swear it works, right? In terms of exams, I tell them don't focus on the exam. The best way to succeed in an exam is to be interested by the discipline, what you're learning. And the exam is going to be a success by itself, right? And so on. So yes, I use it to help whenever I can, but not to analyze people. No, I don't spend my time analyzing people.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So tell me about this new Bachelor of Psychology program.
That's actually an exciting program, and as I mentioned, I've been in many other disciplines, including business, and it's truly, first of all, a need, and Dr. Sultana will certainly say a few words about that. So it's a bachelor degree that we've done in partnership with the Wilfrid Laurier University in Ontario, Canada. We really built a great program that's fully accredited by the Ministry of Higher Education here. That's very important to say it. It meets the requirement of all the great bodies in psychology, such as the American Psychological Association, the Canadian Psychological Association, the British one, the French one, and the courses are such that they cover the field of psychology in general. It's a general bachelor degree that will allow students to truly choose between working after graduation or continuing their studies. Again, I built it with my colleagues. I think we did a great job, and as a student, if I were a student today, I would be certainly interested by taking it because it's exciting. The courses are really exciting.
Okay, great. And what made you decide to start this program? Did you see a need in the market?
Absolutely. There's a need in psychology, as Dr. Sultana was saying, there's a need in psychology almost everywhere. But in the UAE, it's even more crucial because it's a very young society, both in terms of history and in terms of the average age of the population, right? I think the latest statistics are crazy, but they seem to say there is one psychologist for 200,000 people in the whole UAE. Which brings the total number of psychologists between 100 to 120. So there is a need, absolutely, not only in the UAE, but in the whole region, right? So yes, there was absolutely a need.
Yeah, I agree with Dr. Stefan that we are really in need, a very big need for and demand for the proper trained psychologists. There are a lot of psychologists, they can come and they say we can do something, but actually they are not well trained. There is a lot of them in the market nowadays. On the opposite, they are, instead of helping the clients, they are harming them more. And I think the program here in Canadian University, as I discussed with Dr. Stefan about the subjects what they are going to teach the students here, I think it will be covering a lot of things which we really needed. And beside that, I know that they are going to do a lot of trainings for them as well, to make them ready for the market to be with the clients as well. Yeah.
Internship, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mentoring them and with a proper therapist and helping them to be solve their own issues before they go to help others, you know, because
and actually following to what Dr. Sultana just mentioned, the United Arab Emirates actually are going after the charlatans, as you mentioned. A lot of individuals were calling themselves coach and doing some clinical work. Now it's being heavily controlled. Now you cannot use coach as a name just like that, and so on and so forth. So they're going after those people who were cheating the system by doing what a psychologist or sometimes a psychiatrist does, and not having nor the training, nor the knowledge, nor the real motivation to do so.
And I can remember when I was as a student in the Bachelor of Psychology, that time we didn't have enough training. You know, it was only studying, and after that, when we finished our Bachelor and we came to the market, it was very shocking because it's not easy. So that's why I remember when I was working in Rashid Hospital in that time in the psychiatric department, I was for 1 year just observing and looking and getting, and with a psychiatrist sitting and to get this clinical sense. What I think will be very good for this program in Canadian University to start this from the beginning, to help the students to observe themselves, recognize their own problems, their own issues, and try to come over it within these 4 years or 5 years which they study here, and then be ready for the market later. Yep.
Okay, excellent. And you mentioned that the program is accredited.
Absolutely.
Right? Okay,
absolutely.
Excellent.
That's important to say. Yeah.
And what are some of the admission requirements for the program? The admission requirements for the
usually
program?
it's the to have a TOEFL of 500 and 60% in their high school as a minimum requirement to be accepted.
Okay.
Doesn't mean you to apply it doesn't mean you'll be accepted, but it's the minimum requirements.
Okay. And what does a typical day in the life of a psychology student look like? What kind of classes will they be taking, and what would they be studying?
Well, the first year, and this is all across the UAE for any discipline, they have what they call university courses. So the first year, there are only 2 courses in psychology. And then the second, third, and fourth year, 90% of the courses are going to be psychology courses. Again, as I mentioned before, in all the fields from psychobiology to clinical psychology to neuropsychology to organizational psychology and so on and so forth.
Development.
So it's courses that are very complementary. Again, the way we build the program, research is going to be very important to train the students. Again, psychology and research go together, right? And we also want to build the team spirit, meaning we want our program will make the students work together on many aspects of psychology. So they're not going to be left alone.
Right. Oh, that's excellent. I just was noticing we have a few comments here from people that are watching. And we had one question: what is the future and some of the expected work opportunities available for psychology in the UAE?
Future for
so
the
yeah, what they can do with
the
what would they be
degree.
able to do with their bachelor's degree in psychology? And we can look not just in the UAE, but around the world, what they could do with
See,
it.
psychology can be in everything, because it's not only everybody studies psychology can be psychotherapists or they should be psychotherapists. No, they can be in everywhere, as the doctor mentioned before, Dr. Stefan, that you can use it in your business, you can use it in your engineering, you can use it in science, you can use it in everywhere. So I think the future for them, it will be open, more open.
Right.
And usually after a bachelor degree in art, because that's what we chose, they can work in fields such as HR. A lot of HR departments actually are headed by people who are trained in psychology, organizational behavior. They can work in marketing, advertising. They can work in the police, in the army, in healthcare, as we mentioned. It is truly very vast, the possibility in terms of work.
Tell me a bit more. What were you saying with the police? Like, how would someone work with the police with this kind
Well, if you think about the job of a police officer, and Dr. Sultana knows much more about police, their job is about behavior. Most of what they do is about behavior. So if they have a training in psychology, or if they have psychologists with them to help them, I mean, it's just amazing. They need it and they want it.
Absolutely, yeah, because you are dealing, as you said, with the behavior of the people, those criminal behavior and bad behavior, as we call it. So with the police officer, it's very important for them to know a lot about the behavior of the human being and what will make them go to the other side of the road, to not be following the laws and going the opposite of that. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. No, that's excellent.
In Canada, just as a note, I had A huge number, actually a huge number. I would say perhaps 5% of my students were from the Royal Mounted Police.
Oh, interesting.
And they asked us often to go and train the police officers in terms of interviewing potential criminals and so on and so forth. In terms of nonverbal behavior, how to detect a lie and so on and so forth. So the police is absolutely not only in need, but they want psychologists, they want training.
You may have met my father. He was a policeman in Canada, so you may have trained him along the way. So a couple of other questions. What are the mission requirements, which you did touch on, but is there anything specific that they should be taking in high school to prepare them for a degree in psychology?
Listen, contrary to what people believe, having courses in science is helpful, but they don't need them, because we're really starting fresh in terms of math, in terms of statistics, which is very important for psychology. They have courses in biology and so on and so forth, right? But if they have a few courses in, say, biology and math and so on, it will be absolutely very helpful. Communication as well, if they have some training in communication and so on, because it's going to be, of course, important. But again, this is not a requirement, because they will go through all the basic sciences that are needed for psychology.
Now, here's a very interesting question. Do you have it in Arabic, this class, and how can it help UAE nationals? So is that something that...
I'll answer yes, and then I'll let Dr. Sultana continue that. Yes, we're studying both in English and Arabic in September.
Fantastic.
That's interesting. You know, because one of the weakness things here we have that we don't have Arabic bachelor in psychology. We used to have it in UAE University, but now everything turned to English language. And when you deal with the local people, as a psychotherapist, I'm talking again, you need to know the mother tongue of the client, and you should deal with them in their own language. So when the student studies everything in English and he comes to practice it in Arabic, I think he will find a lot of difficulties, because the terminologies, the knowledge, everything is there, and he has to translate everything again back to Arabic. So when he studied, okay, study English, no problem, and study Arabic as well, because this is which help you to communicate better with others.
Absolutely, I agree with you.
One other question we had is about transferring to Canada after studying psychology here at CUD. So is that a possibility?
Absolutely. First of all, we are about right now to sign this famous 2+2 that allows students to move to Canada in third and fourth year. Actually, not only to Canada, even in the US, because we're signing one with the Chicago School of Psychology, right? But even without those agreements, my experience is that with this type of bachelor degree that meets the requirement again of the APA and so on and so forth, and CPA, Canadian universities will be looking at their dossier the same way as they will be looking for any other dossier from anywhere, right? Mm-hmm. So their chances to get into any Canadian university in the program of psychology is going to be huge. Absolutely.
Excellent. So how have you found that the views regionally have changed about psychology over the years?
I recognize that, and I can see that it's really a big difference. I started in 2002 with my own private clinic, and everybody, when I started, everybody, even my family members, they said, oh, you will not succeed. Nobody will come to you. People here are very careful, and they don't like to go there. I said, no problem, I will start. And now I can say we are having waiting lists for the people who are coming to us, and that's showing that how much people are aware about that. It's not only amongst the female, it's amongst the male as well. Both they come, and couples they come, mothers they come to ask about their children problems, every different nationalities, different ages I have also. I think there's a big difference is happening in the view in the last years.
And in terms of, again, the clinical part, the clinics are desperately looking for psychologists. They're just incredible. Since I got licensed, the number of demands and so on from clinics, it's huge, right? So yes, absolutely. Not just because of the change in mentality, because there is a real need for the field of psychology.
Yes.
And I have one person here asking if there is any idea of doing a master's in psychology in the future.
Yes, it's in our plans. It's in the pipeline.
Yeah.
We're thinking about developing 2 master's degrees, one in clinical psychology and one in forensic psychology, with potentially others, absolutely, right? So yes, we should be working on it in order to potentially launch it in 2019.
Oh, excellent. That's great.
It's in the pipeline.
Yeah. Okay, well, just one last question. So what would your advice be to a student that is interested in psychology and potentially studying psychology? What kind of general advice would you give to them about how they should move forward with this, or I don't know, a book you might recommend them reading, or some kind of advice that you think would be helpful?
The first thing I would certainly recommend for the potential students is that they should come and talk to us, because we, as a professor, and as a clinical psychologist, the ethics integrity is very important. I would never push a student to take a field that's not his or hers. So they should come and talk to us, and we'll be more than happy to answer their questions and so on and so forth. In terms of reading, the field of psychology is so vast, right? If they read for the pleasure of reading, absolutely, and again, we could give them references and so on. But to self-help themselves, I'm not sure about that, because it can sometimes create more problems than others finding problems when there are none, and so on. And there are movies. There are movies on YouTube. There are movies about psychology. There is so many things. But the best way, honestly, again, is to come and talk to us, and of course to Dr. Sultana.
I agree with Dr. Stefan, that's true. Students now, they're very young still, and they need somebody to help them and guide them a little, especially to talk to those who went through this experience and know it, and to help them, to mentor them, to tell them to do what it's important for them, and not what is important for this person will be the same for the other. And but in general, I say try to work on yourself as much as you can, be open for everything. Try to look to the life much easier and read, and be interested in everything. Be curious.
Yes.
As a psychologist, you need to be curious in everything.
That sounds like excellent advice. So I don't know if there's anything else that you wanted to add, but otherwise.
Honestly, again, the best way to know about our program is to come and talk to us, approach us, and as we wrote on our website, we'll certainly help any potential student with integrity, and we'll make sure that we give them all the information they need, and hopefully they'll join us.
Excellent.
Yeah, and I say in this program, I'm hoping that there will be a lot of training for skills which the human needed. And I think the students which they will go to this program, beside that what they will learn about psychology a lot, they will learn about their own skills, and they will get some more skills to be prepared, ready for that.
Absolutely.
Well, it sounds like a fantastic program, so congratulations on the start of the new Bachelor of Psychology program at the Canadian University of Dubai. Please come see us at any time to get more information, and thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I actually applied to 6 institutions in Canada, and I've gotten into 4 of them so far. I am leaning towards Vancouver, Simon Fraser University, mainly because they've offered me a very good funding package, and I felt that the community and the outreach was very good from their side. The best package that anyone could hope to receive is a full scholarship with everything included, and that is what I had received. It also allows me to work plus receiving financial aid from the university. So the package involves research assistant with one of the faculty members that I personally want to work with. The other part involves housing, everything included with the fees and all the extracurriculars. So yeah, that's good.